everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Dunc Shot, brought to you by Ray Brandt Infinity. Well, this is the first edition of the Dunc Shot for the new year, 2015. We're going to have these updates daily here at NOLA.com. I'm going to give you my take on the world of sports, so I want to make sure you join us every day here at NOLA.com. And today I want to look at the weekend, what I liked and what I didn't like from the world of sports. There was lots on both sides of the ledger. Let's start with the NFL playoffs. I think we all agree none of us liked the call that went against the Dallas Cowboys, the controversial catch, non-catch by Dez Bryant that pretty much decided that NFC divisional playoff game between the Packers and Cowboys. I know what the NFL rulebook says. I know that they are saying right now, all the NFL officials, that Gene Steratore and his crew made the right call. But I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I mean, come on. That was a catch. We all know it. We all saw it. It passed the eyeball test. It's like that famous quote from Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart, who said, "I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. I know a catch when I see it." Dez Bryant had that football. The rule book has to be changed. That rule has got to go this offseason. I expect the NFL Competition Committee to take a good hard look and make changes so we have common sense prevailing here. Clearly he had possession of the ball, and that cost Dallas a playoff game, a huge win potentially for Jerry Jones, Tony Romo. They complete a fine season, a dramatic comeback season for the Cowboys organization, but a bitter way to go in the offseason. Losing it on a call like that, we need to get that rule changed. Another thing I liked, or I should say one thing I did like in the NFL playoffs this weekend, was the game plan by New England, by Bill Belichick, defying conventional wisdom. You have to run the ball to win in the playoffs in January, right? We all say that. Something you hear about around here a lot in New Orleans, about balancing out the offensive playbook. Well, sometimes you just have to do what's best for your football team. You got to win that particular game, and Bill Belichick teaching us all a lesson. Sometimes you don't get stuck on stupid, and you just pass the ball. If that's the best way to move the ball, that's what you do, and that's what the Patriots did yesterday. They ran the ball 13 times. They passed it 51 times, and as a result, they rode Tom Brady, future Hall of Fame quarterback, and his right arm into the AFC Championship game, 408 yards passing for Brady. They knew they couldn't run the ball on Baltimore in that front seven, so they didn't try to. And that's a good lesson for all of us to learn. Sometimes you don't have to balance it out. You just got to do what's best for your football team and win the game. What I didn't like from the AFC divisional playoffs between the Broncos and Colts, Peyton Manning's health. Clearly, news has broken this morning that Peyton played the last month of the season with a torn right quad muscle. Basically, his right thigh had a torn muscle. And that explains why he couldn't get the ball down the field against the Colts. I think he had less than 200 yards passing, could not beat anybody deep with his arm. A lot of people thought it was his arm strength. Well, now we know it was a quad injury, which makes sense. He can't push off with his right arm to get the ball down the field. And clearly the Colts didn't respect the Broncos' deep passing game. And as a result, they're moving on to the AFC Championship game, and it's going to be an off-season of rehab for Peyton Manning, and the Denver Broncos are going to have to figure out what they're going to do because they got a lot of free agents, a lot of big money guys that they paid. They went all in this year, and Peyton Manning's health clearly compromised their chances of moving on. Tough break for Peyton, tough break for the Broncos, but clearly they were not the best team yesterday as long as Peyton was limited in that way. Another thing I liked this weekend, I liked the trade the Pelicans made, the three-way trade between the Grizzlies and the Celtics. The Pelicans admit the mistake with Austin Rivers, top 10 draft pick, that they basically never found a role for here. His game never developed. He lost confidence early on in his rookie season. Never really seemed to gain it. Never seemed to gain footing in Monty Williams' system. Clearly was unhappy here. They move him and Russ Smith, the second-round pick this year, in a three-way trade. They get Quincy Pondexter back, a guy that they originally had on the roster a few years ago. He'll help in that small forward rotation. The Pelicans need all the help they can get at the 3 spot. He's no world beater, but he does bolster their second 5 unit. They need better depth. There's a big drop-off when they go to their second team. Pondexter's a good, solid NBA player. It's not going to move the needle. It's not going to vault them back into the, into the top 8 in the NBA Western Conference. But I think it does help this team, and it also gets rid of potential distraction the way Austin Rivers was starting to fall out of favor on the bench. So I like that move. I'm not sure it's enough to get them into the playoffs. I think Dell Demps is going to have to make another move down the road if he expects this team to get back into the postseason hunt. Okay, one thing else I did like was the game of Ben Simmons. You might have seen my column this weekend on the future LSU Tiger, the #1 recruit in the country in high school basketball, and you could see why if you were out at the Lario Center this weekend. One of the best, if not the best, high school basketball player I've ever seen, folks. If you get a chance next year, when he gets to LSU, you've got to go see this kid play. He's the best player LSU's had since Shaquille O'Neal, and that's, I think, universal. This is a special talent. What's more, he's a great young man. I mean, very polite, mature beyond his years, poised, a collected kid. Just really was impressed with him on and off the court. What a jewel Johnny Jones has got to build that program around next year. And rest assured, he is going to be the focal point. He is a game changer as an athlete and as a basketball player. And what a joy it's going to be to watch him play next year. I expect LSU to be a top 10, maybe a top 5 team next year, depending on who comes back. Speaking of LSU, I like their win against Georgia. They're getting into the thick now of the SEC play. Could not afford to go 0-2. So they grind out an overtime win at home against Georgia, a game they had to have. And I like the emergence of Tim Quarterman. He's balancing out their attack now. They've got the 2 good inside players in Martin and Mickey. Now they've got an emerging talent on the wing in Tim Quarterman. And his development is going to be key for them as they get into the thick of SEC play and also try and earn a bid in the NCAA tournament. And last but not least, I like that win that Ed Conroy's Tulane team got on Sunday at Devlin against South Florida. It was an overtime win. It wasn't pretty, but they're getting it done there. They're 3-1 now in the American Athletic Conference. They don't have a lot of superstars on this team. Actually, they have no superstars, but they play hard. They play together. They got 2 young big men that are developing, and they've got some good perimeter players around them, and they're getting it done on the defensive end. They mix things up, and Ed Conroy's done a really good job bouncing back from a couple of tough transfers when Ricky Tarrant and Josh Davis left the program a year ago. That's difficult to rebound from at a mid-major like Tulane, and they've done a good job of putting things back together there. They're 3-1 to AAC. I don't think anybody saw that coming, so I like the way the Tulane basketball program is developing out on Willow Street. Okay, that's it for the Daily Dunk Shot today. Remember, I'll be back here again tomorrow right here at NOLA.com. Everybody have a great Monday. Take care.